So you're thinking of becoming an industrial engineer, or you clicked on the video because you're curious about it. The Bureau of Labor Statistics shows a pretty solid 11 to 12% increase in industrial engineering jobs over the next 10 years. So the question is, what do industrial engineers do? And is it worth you taking 4 years of your time and college tuition to study it and try to break into the field? Another question might be, can you break into it if you already have different engineering degree or simply with experience designing and optimizing workflows or processes for a company? Let's talk about all of that and help you come to this understanding so you can start working toward becoming a successful industrial engineer, or so you can pivot yourself to whichever career path would work better for you. Before we start talking about industrial engineering, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to this channel to continue getting information about how to succeed in engineering careers and classes. Be sure to stick around to the end of the video to get a full understanding of industrial engineering, whether it's good for you, and how to break into it. So let's talk about what industrial engineering actually is. You could say that it's a bridge between management and engineering. Industrial engineers help to improve processes and make them more efficient, eliminating waste. So things like waste of money, waste of materials, waste of energy. How do you make these processes more efficient? Or another common phrase is that other engineers build things while industrial engineers build things better. So the key tasks and responsibilities that you may be performing as an industrial engineer and learning how to perform while you're studying the field is process design, creating efficient workflows for manufacturing or the service industry. Because there are still workflows in the service industry, they're not necessarily involving physical tasks or physical products. Things like logistics, maybe they still do, but you're not actually building them in that case. But there's also factors like ergonomics and other human factors where you're designing workstations to reduce worker fatigue, worker injury, because that stuff's important as well. It's another one of these things that could negatively impact an organization if their workers are experiencing fatigue and injury. And then quality control, another one, like Six Sigma, ensuring that products meet standards, not having too much variation between them. And then operations research like math, logic, solving complex scheduling and logistic problems. Because in a lot of your engineering classes, you're using math and logic for statics or dynamics or chemical problems and stuff. And in this case, you're using it to add value regarding the scheduling and logistics of the company's operations. So where do industrial engineers work? So there's traditional manufacturing and all the manufacturing companies we can think of in aerospace and such. There's healthcare, because you can think about optimizing wait times in the ER or surgical scheduling to make sure as many patients are getting seen and as many as possible are getting better and that the patients are all getting their needs met. Because in that case, it's actually quite crucial because we're dealing with people's lives and whether they stay alive, whether their injuries or illnesses are becoming contained, and making sure that those injuries also don't increase or get out of control too much before they get treatment. And things like logistics at Amazon or other logistic companies managing a lot of supply chain stuff and the process that can make that more efficient, making the shipping times shorter, not using as many gallons of gasoline and such to move products to wherever they're supposed to go. And then there's also tech and finance, improving software development times, life cycles or transaction speeds for banking operations. So just any industry, there's a lot of different things that could be optimized, that could be improved, that could be made more efficient. And as an industrial engineer, this is the kind of thing that you're thinking about all the time. So let's talk about compensation for industrial engineers. So at the entry level, you're talking a range probably like $70,000 to $94,000 a year. And then in mid-career pay, median across all fields, approximately $103,000 to $106,000. But then once you get more into senior level and management roles or even director roles, you can get up to $150K plus. The sky's the limit there. You can move out as much as you want or move as much as you're able to and just keep making bank. Some bonus tips I would provide is that industrial engineers often move into higher paying executive roles because their system level understanding just helps them to see the entirety of what's going on in the business and whatever knowledge that they would need to make higher level decisions. So if you're thinking about doing something more on the executive side, this could really be helpful for that. So in terms of demand and job outlook, growth rate projected to grow around 11% through 2034. So that's quite a bit faster than other occupations. And the reason for this demand in industrial engineers is because companies are desperate to lower costs and integrate new technologies into their legacy systems to stay on top of their latest trends and be as efficient as they can, especially beating their competitors in these areas. And because industrial engineers focus on efficiency, they're often the last to be let go during economic downturns. So that is pretty huge, is being able to have job security, especially lately when there's just so many layoffs and so much uncertainty. And so in terms of just anything that could possibly get you to lose your job, like that's happening a lot more nowadays, so job security is pretty big. So let's talk about if you were to break into industrial engineering from a different field. I know one person who was in process engineering and then got a process engineer with a chemical engineering degree, but then got a master's degree in industrial engineering, and then was able to break into industrial engineering in a different industry. And that is one example of someone I do know. So clearly it is feasible. That's probably a pretty good use case for getting a master's degree, is when you want to break into another field or industry from having experience in one sort of related thing and just want to be able to carry the transferable skills into another industry. And because a master's degree, it's not universally always the best idea, but in this case, I think it really worked out for this person and could work out really for someone who has a specialty but wants to break into more system-level industrial engineering. And I think that is a kind of common thing that people end up switching into things like that in that way. But with that said, also, if you're trying to switch in your own company, then I think in a lot of cases you can talk to whoever hires for industrial engineering positions, see what they need, because internal transfers are something that companies love and hiring managers love. They know that if they're hiring someone who's not very high risk, who's been doing well in the company, they don't need to go through all the bureaucracy of the background check and all the HR stuff and whatnot in order to get this person on their team. So if this person's actually going to be doing well for this hiring manager, then that's going to be huge. The hiring manager had a big win in that case. So if you're currently working at an engineering company, you have opportunities to look into industrial engineering, and that's what you want to do. Even if it's not exactly what your background is, then look into what kinds of certifications you can get or what kinds of ways you can learn about the field and do well in it with the knowledge that you currently have or already have. Even going into a master's program could help as well. Although I would start with other things that aren't as much time and as much money to cost you to get into it. But yeah, so I think there definitely are ways to break into this with whatever skill set you've already been developing. Let's talk about work-life balance of industrial engineers. So usually it's going to be pretty standard, 40 to 45 hours a week, because this is kind of a desk job for the most part. Although it is a combination really of partly being a desk job and partly going out to observe processes and see what's going on, see how they can be improved, because that's exactly what you're dealing with, is the processes. But because you're not having to produce a bunch of goods or be directly involved in that, there's not necessarily always going to be tons of overtime involved. But it could happen sometimes just because there could be a lot of work for the industrial engineering team to perform and having to catch up on things at certain times. But yeah, it seems 40 to 45 hours, you could usually depend on that to be the standard, and just occasional deviations from that. And in terms of flexibility, 2026 does show trends in hybrid work for industrial engineers, especially those focused on data analysis and supply chain modeling. So the kinds of stuff that really can be done remotely, and there may be more opportunities for hybrid or maybe even fully remote. And this does show also companies trying to be competitive and maintain their retention and their hiring of competent industrial engineers. So it just shows that, yeah, this field is clearly in high demand. And then the kind of environment which we mention, some of it's going to be on the floor, some of it's going to be factories, hospitals, distribution centers, or whatever you're dealing with. But then the rest of it's going to be at a desk doing a lot more analytical work, which makes sense because this is fundamentally an administrative position that you're dealing with efficiency of processes, the analytical side, and how to improve all the processes and such. But you do have to actually go out and see the processes and be sort of upfront where they are, because you have to get an understanding of what to include in these analyses and in what you're observing of the processes and what to do with them. So I hope you found this video helpful, and hope you found it to be a good rundown of what industrial engineers do and what kind of lifestyle you could expect from it and from the job outlook and such. And if you did find this video helpful, if you liked it, please sure to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel to continue getting information about engineering careers, how to be successful in them. And thanks for watching. Good to connect with you. Talk soon.